Kyler Murray is the epitome of average. He's the epitome of mediocre.
I think that last night he was atrocious. Yeah. It was the worst performance.
Once hailed as the NFL's future, Kyler Murray is now drowning in atrocious stats that scream rock bottom. Some say the league hit its lowest point when he was drafted as the top guy. Here is how Kyler Murray fell from grace. The rise and fall of a Heisman hero. The story of Kyler Murray begins not with failure, disappointment, or the crushing weight of unmet expectations, but with unprecedented, jaw-dropping success that seemed to rewrite the very rules of what was possible in football. At the University of Oklahoma, under the bright lights and in the pressure cooker environment of Big 12 football, Murray was nothing short of spectacular, electrifying, and absolutely mesmerizing to watch. In his lone season as the Sooners' starting quarterback in 2018, he threw for an astronomical 4,361 yards and 42 touchdowns, while adding another 1,001 rushing yards and 12 scores on the ground, en route to winning the Heisman Trophy, becoming just the second player in the award's storied history to win it after transferring schools. His dual threat ability wasn't just impressive, it was revolutionary, combining the precision passing of a traditional pocket quarterback with the explosive running ability typically reserved for the most gifted athletes on the field. Murray could dissect defenses with surgical precision one moment, threading passes into impossibly tight windows with arm strength that belied his smaller stature, and then leave defenders grasping at nothing but air the next moment with his electrifying, almost supernatural mobility that made him look like he was playing a different sport entirely. The numbers from his Heisman-winning season were staggering in their excellence. Murray completed 69% of his passes for 4,361 yards, numbers that would be impressive for any quarterback, but seemed almost impossible for someone who also rushed for over 1,000 yards. His 42 passing touchdowns, combined with 12 rushing scores, gave him 54 total touchdowns, a production level that placed him in rarefied air among college football's all-time great seasons. More importantly, he did all of this while leading Oklahoma to a 12-2 record and an appearance in the college football playoff semifinal. When Murray made the momentous decision to declare for the NFL draft, forsaking what could have been a lucrative professional baseball career with the Oakland Athletics, who had drafted him 9th overall in the 2018 MLB draft, the entire football world sat up and took notice. Here was a player who had rewritten record books, captured college football's most prestigious individual award, and demonstrated a unique skill set that seemed tailor-made for the modern NFL's emphasis on mobility and versatility at the quarterback position. The Cardinals didn't just select Murray first overall, they traded up to ensure they could make him the face of their franchise before he had thrown a single NFL pass, giving up significant draft capital and dealing away Josh Rosen, their first-round quarterback selection from just 1 year earlier. This wasn't merely a draft selection, it was a complete organizational commitment, a bet-the-franchise decision that would define the Cardinals' trajectory for years to come. The expectations surrounding Murray weren't just high, they were astronomical, bordering on unrealistic. This wasn't simply another first-round pick who might develop into a solid starter with proper coaching and development. This was supposed to be the quarterback who would single-handedly transform Arizona from a perennial cellar dweller into a playoff contender, the dynamic playmaker who would bring excitement back to the desert and give Cardinals fans something to believe in after years of disappointment and mediocrity. Murray's rookie season in 2019 provided plenty of legitimate reasons for optimism and excitement about the future. He earned NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year honors, throwing for 3,722 yards and 20 touchdowns, while adding an impressive 544 rushing yards and 4 scores on the ground, numbers that validated the Cardinals' faith in his ability to translate his college success to the professional level, despite the team finishing with a disappointing 5-11 record, a reminder that individual excellence doesn't automatically translate to team success in the NFL. There were genuine flashes of the brilliance and game-changing ability that had made Murray the top overall selection. The 2020 and 2021 seasons represented the absolute peak of Murray's professional career to date, the closest he has come to fulfilling the tremendous potential that made him such an attractive prospect coming out of college. Under head coach Cliff Kingsbury, who had briefly coached Murray during his time at Texas Tech before Murray transferred to Oklahoma, the Cardinals' offense began to operate with the kind of rhythm, efficiency, and explosive potential that had been missing from Arizona football for far too long. In 2020, Murray posted career highs with 26 passing touchdowns and an incredible 11 rushing scores, earning his first Pro Bowl selection while leading an offense that ranked among the league's most productive and exciting units. The combination of Murray's dual threat ability with weapons like DeAndre Hopkins, who had been acquired in a trade that many considered highway robbery, created an offensive attack that could strike from anywhere on the field at any moment. The following 2021 season brought even more promise and seemed to validate every optimistic projection about Murray's ceiling as a franchise quarterback. Murray achieved a career-best 100.6 passer rating while leading the Cardinals to an impressive 11-6 record and their first playoff berth since 2015, snapping a playoff drought that had stretched across multiple coaching staffs and front office regimes. During this peak period of his career, Murray looked every bit the part of a franchise quarterback who could lead a team to sustained success. His escapability in the pocket was virtually unmatched throughout the league, allowing him to buy time for receivers to get open and create opportunities that simply didn't exist for more traditional pocket-bound quarterbacks. His arm strength was elite, capable of challenging defenses vertically with deep throws that could change the complexion of a game in an instant, while his accuracy on intermediate routes provided the kind of consistent production that championship offenses require. Analysts across the football media landscape began mentioning Murray in legitimate MVP conversations, and the Cardinals' explosive start to the 2021 season, including an eye-popping 7-0 record that had the entire NFL world taking notice, had many wondering if this young, dynamic quarterback might actually lead Arizona to their first Super Bowl appearance since their heartbreaking last-second loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2008. But then, almost as quickly as the success had arrived, and as suddenly as the optimism had reached its peak, cracks began to show in what had appeared to be a solid foundation. The Cardinals' devastating late-season collapse in 2021, losing 6 of their final 7 games in a fashion that was both shocking and deeply concerning, offered the first real glimpse into what would become a recurring, maddening theme throughout Murray's professional career: the inability to maintain excellence when it mattered most, the tendency to fade when the lights were brightest and the stakes were highest. The wild-card playoff loss to the Los Angeles Rams served as a harbinger of troubles to come, and in many ways encapsulated every concern that scouts and analysts had harbored about Murray's ability to perform on the biggest stages. Murray completed just 9 of 23 passes for a paltry 137 yards, threw 2 costly interceptions, and posted a dismal 40.9 passer rating in what should have been his coming out party on the national stage, his opportunity to announce himself as a legitimate championship caliber quarterback. What made this collapse particularly troubling and concerning wasn't just the poor statistics. Every quarterback has bad games, and even the greatest players in NFL history have struggled in big moments, but rather the manner in which Murray seemed to shrink when the moment was biggest. Gone was the confident, dynamic, seemingly unstoppable playmaker who had dazzled fans and opponents alike during the regular season. In his place was a quarterback who appeared overwhelmed by the magnitude of the moment, making poor decisions born from panic rather than poise, and failing to elevate his team's performance when they needed their leader to be at his absolute best.
I think that last night he was atrocious. It was the worst performance I've seen of his career. I've never seen Kyler Murray look as bad as he looked in that first half. It was complete panic.
This moment marked the beginning of a fundamentally different narrative around Kyler Murray, a shift in perception that would prove difficult to overcome. The contract controversy and character concerns. The summer of 2022 should have been nothing short of a celebration for Kyler Murray, the Arizona Cardinals organization, and the passionate fan base that had endured decades of quarterback instability and mediocrity. Fresh off a playoff appearance that had ended disappointingly but still represented genuine progress. And with their young, dynamic quarterback entering what should have been his prime years, the organization made a massive financial commitment that was intended to secure their future and signal to the entire NFL that they believed Murray was their franchise cornerstone for years to come. On July 21st, 2022, in what was supposed to be a moment of triumph and organizational alignment, Murray signed a 5-year, $230.5 million extension that made him one of the NFL's highest-paid quarterbacks, within staggering $160 million guaranteed, placing him in the same financial stratosphere as established superstars like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and other proven championship-level talents. Contract represented more than just money. It was a statement of faith, a declaration that the Cardinals believed Murray had the talent, leadership ability, and character necessary to lead their franchise to sustained success and potentially their first Super Bowl championship in team history. For a player who had been drafted first overall and shown flashes of brilliance, it seemed like the natural next step in what many hoped would be a legendary career in the desert. But what should have been a moment of pure triumph and celebration quickly devolved into one of the most embarrassing, widely mocked, and ultimately damaging contract controversies in recent NFL history. The deal included an unprecedented and frankly stunning independent study clause that required Murray to complete at least 4 hours per week of mandatory film study with specific, almost insulting language that explicitly prohibited playing video games or browsing the internet during these mandatory preparation sessions. The revelation of this clause sent immediate shockwaves throughout the NFL community and beyond, creating a media firestorm that dominated sports talk shows, social media discussions, and water cooler conversations across the country. Never before in the modern history of professional football had a franchise felt compelled to contractually mandate that their franchise quarterback, a grown man being paid nearly $50 million annually to be the leader of their organization, actually dedicate time to studying game film and preparing for opponents. The implications were not just staggering, they were deeply embarrassing for everyone involved. The clause suggested, in black and white legal language that could be scrutinized by anyone with access to the contract details, that the Cardinals front office harbored serious, legitimate concerns about Murray's work ethic, preparation habits, and professional commitment to his craft. For a quarterback to need such a provision written into his contract was widely seen as a damning indictment of his professionalism and maturity, particularly given Murray's well-documented and frequently discussed love for video games, especially his obsession with Call of Duty. The clause raised uncomfortable questions that went far beyond Murray's individual situation. If the Cardinals felt the need to legally require their highest-paid player to study film, what did that say about their evaluation of his character? What did it reveal about internal discussions and concerns that had obviously been brewing within the organization? Most importantly, what did it suggest about Murray's likelihood of ever developing into the kind of leader and student of the game that championship quarterbacks are expected to be? Murray's response to the controversy was telling in ways that he likely didn't intend, and it revealed character traits that would continue to surface throughout his career when faced with criticism or adversity. Rather than acknowledging the underlying concerns that had obviously motivated the clause, taking responsibility for any preparation shortcomings, or using the moment as an opportunity to demonstrate growth and maturity, he became immediately defensive and dismissive of the legitimate questions being raised about his approach to his profession. Murray called the implication disrespectful and almost a joke, pointing to his college accolades and early NFL success as evidence that questions about his work ethic were unfounded and unfair. While Murray certainly had every right to defend himself against what he perceived as unfair criticism, his reaction raised additional questions about his willingness to accept accountability, learn from feedback, and demonstrate the kind of self-awareness that elite athletes typically possess. The Cardinals, quickly realizing the public relations disaster they had created and the damage being done to their organization's reputation and their quarterback's public image, hastily removed the clause just days later, issuing a carefully worded statement claiming it was perceived in ways that were never intended, and reaffirming their high regard for Murray's work ethic and commitment. However, the damage was done, and the toothpaste could not be put back in the tube. The mere existence of such a clause, regardless of how quickly it was removed or how diplomatically the Cardinals tried to explain it away, had exposed deep-seated organizational concerns about Murray's commitment and maturity that would follow him throughout the remainder of his career and influence how his performance was evaluated by media, fans, and potentially future employers. This wasn't an isolated incident or a simple misunderstanding, but rather part of a broader, more concerning pattern of character and maturity issues that had been following Murray since his college days and draft process. During the immediate aftermath of his Heisman Trophy celebration in 2018, old tweets from Murray's teenage years resurfaced, revealing homophobic language and slurs that forced him to issue a public apology and briefly threatened to overshadow his football accomplishments. While these tweets were from when Murray was just 15 years old, an age when poor judgment and immaturity are expected and often forgiven, they nevertheless established an early narrative about his decision-making, awareness of public perception, and understanding of the responsibilities that come with being a public figure and role model for young fans. The pre-draft process had also raised significant red flags that, in hindsight, seemed prophetic of the issues that would emerge during his professional career. NFL Network's respected analyst Charlie Casserly, a former general manager with extensive experience evaluating quarterback prospects, reported receiving what he called the worst comments I ever got on a high-rated quarterback regarding Murray's interview performance at the 2019 NFL Combine. According to Casserly's sources, teams were reportedly unimpressed with Murray's leadership skills, study habits, and performance during whiteboard sessions, where prospects are asked to demonstrate their understanding of football concepts, painting a picture of a talented but potentially unprepared and immature prospect who might struggle with the mental and emotional demands of being an NFL starting quarterback. As Murray's professional career progressed and he established himself as a regular starter in the NFL, these character concerns didn't disappear. If anything, they seemed to manifest and intensify in various ways that became increasingly difficult to ignore or dismiss. ESPN reported in early 2022, citing multiple sources within the Cardinals organization, that Murray was viewed internally as self-centered, immature, and a finger pointer, with teammates growing frustrated by his perceived perceived lack of leadership, accountability, and willingness to take responsibility for team failures. These anonymous reports were particularly damaging because they came from within the organization. People who worked with Murray daily, observed his preparation habits firsthand, and had direct insight into his leadership style and approach to the game. When your own teammates and coaches are expressing concerns about your character and work ethic, it suggests problems that go far beyond media narratives or public perception issues. The pattern of concerning behavior extended to Murray's interactions with coaches and teammates during games, moments when his emotions and true character were most likely to be revealed under the pressure of competition. In October 2022, television cameras captured Murray in a heated, clearly contentious sideline exchange with head coach Cliff Kingsbury over play-calling decisions, displaying the kind of petulant, unprofessional behavior that raised serious questions about his emotional maturity and understanding of his role as a leader. While passion and competitiveness are certainly expected and encouraged from elite athletes, Murray's body language and demeanor in these situations often suggested frustration directed outward toward coaches, teammates, and circumstances, rather than the kind of internal accountability and self-reflection that characterizes truly great leaders. Former NFL running back LaShawn McCoy, who had played with and against elite quarterbacks throughout his career, was particularly critical and insightful in his assessment of Murray's character and leadership style, stating on the Speakeasy podcast,
Kyler Murray is the epitome of average. He's the epitome of mediocre. Now, that's not the biggest diss in the world. If you're a mediocre quarterback in the National Football League, you'll make hundreds of millions of dollars.
This observation about Murray's body language and emotional volatility became a recurring and increasingly prominent theme in discussions about his leadership potential and ceiling as a franchise quarterback, the downward spiral and current reality. As the 2025 NFL season trudges into its fifth week with all the enthusiasm of a funeral march, the harsh, undeniable reality of Kyler Murray's career trajectory has become impossible to ignore, rationalize, or excuse away with talk of potential, circumstances, or bad luck. Currently sitting at a dismal 1-3 record with the Arizona Cardinals, Murray's latest performance against the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday night, football epitomized everything that critics, analysts, and frustrated fans have been saying about his fundamental inability to perform under pressure and deliver when games hang in the balance. What was supposed to be a redemption season, a triumphant return to form following his recovery from the devastating ACL injury that had derailed the 2022 campaign, has instead become yet another chapter in an increasingly painful story of unfulfilled potential, missed opportunities, and mounting frustration that has left the Cardinals organization questioning their massive investment and fans wondering if they'll ever see the quarterback they thought they were getting. When Murray was selected first overall, the statistical reality of Murray's 2025 season tells a sobering tale that becomes even more concerning when examined in context and compared to the production of other starting quarterbacks around the league. Through the first 4 games of the season, he has completed 87 of 130 passes for 742 yards, 6 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, posting an 87.4 passer rating that places him firmly in the middle tier of NFL quarterbacks, a level of performance that might be acceptable for a veteran journeyman or developing young player, but is utterly inadequate for someone earning over $45 million annually and expected to be the cornerstone of a franchise. While these numbers might seem respectable or even decent on the surface to casual observers, they mask much deeper, more systemic issues that have plagued Murray throughout his career and show no signs of improvement despite years of experience, coaching, and organizational support. His 3 interceptions already tie him for the most among starting quarterbacks through 4 games, and more importantly, his tendency to turn the ball over at the most crucial, game-deciding moments continues to haunt the Cardinals' offense and prevent them from achieving any sustained success or consistency. The Thursday night football performance against Seattle served as a perfect microcosm of everything that has gone wrong in Murray's career. A condensed version of all his strengths and weaknesses played out on national television for millions of viewers to witness and judge. After throwing 2 absolutely inexcusable interceptions in the first half that essentially gifted easy scoring opportunities to the Seahawks, Murray found himself in an all too familiar position, playing from behind, desperately trying to mount a comeback, and needing to overcome his own mistakes rather than leading his team to victory from a position of strength. While Murray did manage to showcase his undeniable arm talent and competitiveness by engineering a late comeback that resulted in a touchdown pass to rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. to tie the game, the damage from his early panic-induced produced errors proved too substantial to overcome in what became a crushing 23-20 loss that perfectly encapsulated the frustrating pattern that has defined his professional career. This recurring theme, early mistakes followed by impressive but ultimately meaningless late-game statistics, has become perhaps the most maddening aspect of Murray's play for Cardinals fans, coaches, and teammates who have watched this same movie play out repeatedly over multiple seasons. Critics and analysts have noted that Murray's statistics often appear better than his actual impact on winning because of these garbage time situations where opposing defenses are playing more conservatively and focusing on preventing big plays rather than aggressive coverage. The most damning aspect of Murray's current struggles isn't just the raw statistics or even the losses, but rather the detailed film study and advanced analytics that reveal deeper mechanical, mental, and systemic issues that appear to be getting worse rather than better as his career progresses. Comprehensive analysis shows Murray's chronic, seemingly unfixable problems when facing pressure, where he ranks among the league's absolute worst with a devastating 37.9 Pro Football Focus grade since 2020, a number that represents not just poor play, but historically bad performance for a starting quarterback. His tendency to panic when the pocket collapses, often scrambling backwards in wide, time-consuming arcs that result in significant yardage losses instead of stepping up courageously into the pocket or finding quick outlet receivers, has become such a predictable and exploitable pattern that opposing defensive coordinators specifically game plan around it and use it to their advantage when designing pressure packages and coverage schemes. As one detailed scouting analysis noted with brutal honesty, Murray struggles mightily with pressure. He has this fear of contact where he ducks his head to avoid hits from linemen, steps backward in arcs, gaining negative yards, and fails to anticipate routes. His 5 to 10 inches height exacerbates visibility issues over the line, unlike taller quarterbacks who can see over rushing defenders and find throwing lanes. The psychological and mental aspects of Murray's struggles cannot and should not be understated or dismissed as temporary growing pains that will naturally resolve with more experience in coaching. His overall career record of 36-45-1 after 6 full seasons represents not just disappointment, but a significant failure for a quarterback with his talent level, draft pedigree, and the resources that have been invested in his development. Even more troubling and concerning is his 0-1 playoff record, with that lone postseason appearance resulting in one of the most embarrassing and weighed a 32nd overall in that same 2018 draft, have achieved dramatically more team success and individual recognition. Jackson has won an MVP award and led the Baltimore Ravens to multiple playoff appearances while establishing himself as one of the most dynamic and successful dual-threat quarterbacks in NFL history, while Allen has developed into one of the premier quarterbacks in the entire league and a perennial MVP candidate, leading the Buffalo Bills to sustained playoff success and establishing himself as one of the faces of the modern NFL. The financial implications of Murray's struggles and underperformance cannot be ignored or dismissed when evaluating the Cardinals' current predicament and future options. With over $200 million remaining on his contract extension through 2028, the Cardinals find themselves trapped in what many analysts and salary cap experts consider quarterback purgatory, too heavily invested in Murray to realistically consider moving on from him, but not receiving anywhere near the level of production needed to justify such a massive financial commitment. This creates a uniquely frustrating situation for the organization, their fans, and potentially Murray himself. The Cardinals are essentially handcuffed to a player who has shown flashes of elite ability, but has never demonstrated the consistency, leadership, or clutch performance necessary to lead a team to sustain success at the highest level of professional football. As former NFL player and current analyst Acho astutely observed about Murray's impact on the Cardinals' long-term prospects,
Kyler Murray is going to keep the Arizona Cardinals in a predicament for the next decade if they stay with him. Kyler Murray is too good to let you be drafting in the top 4, top 3, top 2, especially if he's healthy, but he's not good enough to take you far in the playoffs.
This assessment perfectly encapsulates the cruel reality and impossible situation that Murray's career has created for the Cardinals organization. He possesses enough talent and ability to prevent the team from being bad enough to draft a potential replacement with a high selection, but he lacks the consistency, mental toughness, and leadership qualities necessary to elevate the franchise to championship contention, or even sustain playoff success. It's a particularly insidious form of quarterback purgatory that could define and handicap the Cardinals for years years to come, preventing them from either committing fully to Murray and building around his strengths or moving on to find a different solution at the position that might better suit their organizational needs and championship aspirations. The fan reaction to Murray's continued struggles and disappointing performances has been particularly harsh and increasingly difficult for the organization to ignore. Cardinals fans were audibly booing both Murray and rookie receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. during their most recent home game, representing a stark and painful contrast to the excitement, optimism, and genuine enthusiasm that had greeted Murray's arrival in Arizona just 6 years earlier. That brings us to the end of this video. For more interesting videos like this, click on the cards on your screen.